Alright, Art, you were asking about the completion of the turnouts. I'm going to continue doing it. This here is the right-handed turnout that I was talking about in the last post. The last video was a left-hand turnout. I had completed that actually a couple months ago. So I just started working on this a couple nights ago. We're at the same step as before. These are the gauges that I was talking about. I do have one point rail cut or filed and almost cut the size. I did notch it. I'll show you how to do that later so that it lines up with the template. I'll go there. Again, we're going to need rail cutters, gauges, solder, flux, Sharpie marker with a pretty fine point. This is brand new practically. Point form tool from Fast Tracks, triangular file, flat file, small like a jeweler file, and then a 10-inch mill bastard file with a fine tooth. And some patience. That's the hardest one to find. This comes in handy. Track gauge, HO scale, the solder gun, now let's get to it. I may speed up throughout some of these processes and then slow back down when I'm talking about certain areas. First thing I'm going to be doing is cutting the rails for the guardrails. Fast Tracks template. We're using this notch here in the middle. That's the length of the guardrail. And then these two slightly angled notches here on either side are the bends for the rails, the little wings of the rails. So we're going to need 2, 4, we're going to need 6 guardrails. I'll cut 6 lengths and then bend them all. Okay, got the guardrails cut to length. Now I'll use those angled notches in the template. What you do is you put the piece in like so into the notch, and if you can see, it is on a slight angle. What you're going to do is push this, bend it so it's perpendicular to the edge of the surface of the template, and that's how you get your proper angle. A little bit too far, just slightly bend it back. There you go. Flip around to the other side on this notch. Bend it up just a bit. Doesn't take much. Looks pretty good. And there's a wing rail. Easy as that. 5 more to go. Okay, that's number 6. Got 6 guardrails. We've got 2 on each side of where the frogs are. There, there, and there. Alright, the next thing we're going to do, this is the, I guess you would say the right-handed side of this turnout. I have the edge filed. I have a notch cut where it bends at the frog point. This has to get cut to length and then filed back slightly for the wing rails. I'll start fresh with a fresh piece of rail. I will have it pre-bent slightly because these are curved turnouts. I'll file the point on the left side and we'll go from there. On the point form tool, you want to use this end. It says points. Pretty simple. It's the outside notches on the end. Just slide it in. Push it through till it just the inside of the rail just passes the block. You get a nice, fine, sharp point. Finger tighten it down. Use an Allen key to tighten it down further. And you're ready to file. This is where the 10-inch mill bastard file comes in. I normally do this over a trash can, but I'll keep it in the camera view for this time. I'm going to do long strokes across the whole block so that it wears evenly. Alright, let's take it out of the block. Clean off the little burrs. I usually just use my nail and drag it across the filed surface. So it's nice smooth. I'll usually, right at the tip of the point, the head of the rail, I'll just file back so it's a knife edge almost. Just the top of the rail, not doing the bottom, the T grid of it, the top of the actual rail head. Just file it back a little bit so it's a little sharper. Won't get caught up on the rail, I mean on the wheels. There we go. Clean up the edge a little bit. Nice, sharp point. Okay, so I can cut this to length. We're going to put it into the notch that I sanded or filed into the edge of the stock rail. It'll sit flush into that. Lengthwise, this is where the Sharpie comes in. We're going to notch it right. Let me just pre-bend this a little bit better so it conforms to the curve just a little bit better. There we go, that's good. Place it where it needs to be. Put a little mark. And we'll cut it off. Again, use the flat side of the rail nippers, not the beveled side. Flat side toward the good rail, because it leaves, of course, a bevel on the bad rail. You don't want that. That's the bad rail. You don't want that side. Place it back. Put a little mark on the rail again where the bend is at the frog, and I'm just going to put a little notch with the tip of the rail cutters, just a notch. Cut off that extra bit. Again, I'll take the flat file it smooth. And that just allows you to put a little bend in it, like that. Put it up against the template and see how it goes. Hey, not bad, first time. Now on the inside of the wing, I'm going to file that top rail back a little bit, again so the flanges of the wheel don't get caught in it. Sort of like a compound angle. Gonna bevel it down and away. That will rest there. This previous one I still have to not actually cut to length. I will notch it right, or cut it right there on that mark. Flat side to the good rail. And again, compound file angle away from the wing. There we go. So we got the 2 points, got the wings bent and filed back, got the guardrails bent. They will end up going here. And here. We'll solder those into place, and that's a completed turnout there once that's soldered. Repeat these processes here for the other 2 turnouts, and you got a triple turnout assembly, all one unit soldered together. Let's see what we got. Get some flux and solder going, and put this sucker together. I usually solder the straight route first. No particular reason why, just seems like it's a sensible way to go. Load it up with some flux and start soldering. Use these micro brushes to apply the flux. Now this tie right here, that is the pivot point. I do not want to solder the rail to these 2 ties, so otherwise it will not bend. That has that spacing. It's about 2.5 inches. That is the whole pivot point, so that the points move back and forth. That's why I have a little P right here to remind me. P for pivot. Do not solder these. Solder up here close to the frog, and this point here will solder the wing rail. So make sure that the point is in the proper position, and the spot where we notched it right there. Alright, before I solder the point, I'm going to check it. First acid test is wheels. There we go. Feels pretty smooth. Check my gauges. Should pop on easily. There we go. You can use these. I found actually where it says the track at the bottom isn't as accurate as the flangeways. Just the tiniest little play right there. That's good. Let me get these guardrails out of the way. And I'm going to put the other rail in. Alright, now I need a little piece of paper. Which goes in between. Bend it a little bit, like a little J. And that will go in between the point and the stock rail to keep the solder from soldering the two rails together. I want to solder it to the PC board ties, not the stock rail. That should do it. Now I'll take my knife, cut it off the paper so that this point tie can move. Break that free. Now I use some scrap tie as a spacer in between the stock rail and the point that I just soldered. Put the piece of paper in between again. A little dab of flux. Cross your fingers, it moves. And there you go. Alright, now we got the points soldered in place. Just going to check that they are up against the stock rails, nice and clean. Feels like a pretty good transition. You can always touch it up with a file. That one is even better. Alright, let's get some guardrails in. Okay, there's a completed turnout. Got the 2 point rails, guardrails. We started with the stock and the frog rails. Once I do the other two, same assemblies. I'll take them out, use a jeweler's saw, and cut the parts of the rail to isolate the frog. Again, you can use, I use the hex frog juicers on some parts of my layout. These are going to be controlled for the polarity by the tortoise switches. Pretty simple. And art, that's how it's done.